Hi and welcome to another YouTube video. I can't believe that it's finally time to share this video with you because I had the idea for this in my mind for what feels like an eternity, and then I tried executing it, and that took forever too since I decided to build a medieval fantasy village, which, surprise, took a little bit of time, but now it lined up perfectly for my 2-year YouTube anniversary, and I couldn't think of a more exciting and special project to celebrate it with. But yeah, how did I get the idea for this video, and what even is this mysterious collab that you've maybe read about in the title? So I don't know how closely many of you follow the art YouTube scene, but last year there was an incredible collab idea going around in the art community, and it's currently in season 2 actually, and it was organized by a YouTuber called 1000, who I'll link in the description, and he started something that he called the biggest art collab on YouTube, in which he prepared a canvas and started a painting and then sent this unfinished artwork off to the next art YouTuber, and from that point on he would not really have control over the artwork anymore, because this next artist he chose had the completely free choice of where to send the artwork off to next, and so far and so on. And I absolutely loved following that entire journey, and it was amazing to stumble across fantastic and talented artists and YouTubers while following the same painting the entire time. And ever since then I wanted to do something like this in the Sims 4 building community. I wanted to start just like a big build that would include vastly different buildings, like normal houses, taverns, a windmill, maybe a temple, for example. And like for the example of this village that I actually ended up building, but I also played around with many ideas like a circus or a Christmas market. But yeah, I ultimately ended up with this build you're seeing at the moment. And so in the context of The Sims, I'm starting us off not with preparing a canvas, but with building the landscape and doing the landscaping, because that's the part of building that I love the most anyways, and to give the other builders kind of like a base to build on, and the next ones down the line have full autonomy to change or delete parts of the landscaping around the building that they're going to contribute. So there's no getting angry at anyone for deleting something that I've placed down. It's all fair game. And I guess this is a great time to reveal the next person who's going to contribute a build to this village, and that is going to be the absolutely lovely, amazing, beautiful, talented SunnySimsie, who I already had the pleasure of meeting and drinking some cocktails with in real life, and I know she's going to do an incredible job with this. And just by having a look at some of her builds, you probably know why I know that she's going to do an incredible job. But then afterwards I have no idea where this build is going to go. It could end up actually being built on by some of like the biggest Sims YouTubers that I've watched and admired for years. But if you watching this have a Sims YouTube channel or you plan to create one, you could end up working on this project as well. And that's just what makes me so incredibly excited. And I really hope that I get to meet and discover more wonderful Simmers. Maybe I'm not even aware of their existence yet, but we could end up working on this together, which is just wild to think about. And I hope that everyone is going to have fun and be inspired while working on this, and I hope this will be a success and not die somewhere down the line, because that would be pretty sad. But yeah, so what I'm currently working on to kick this exciting project off is creating a landscape and basically becoming a medieval village planner, which is fun to do. And first I marked out with floor tiles the different districts of the village, and I didn't want it to be too symmetrical, and just doing it with floor tiles was a great opportunity opportunity to play around with it and play around with the shapes. And I did actually change a lot of this stuff while I was still working with the floor tiles, so I'm very, very happy and thankful that I did that, because that way I didn't have to go through too much effort to change them. And then I placed some placeholder buildings to be able to adjust the height of the different levels in a way where you can still fully see the buildings in the back. So basically arranging them like seats in a cinema a little bit. And I also later put some basic roofs and wallpaper on the houses to be able to visualize how it could end up looking in the future in order to be inspired, and also not to intrude on the space that the builds would take up, because otherwise, if I would not have that like representation of the potential builds, I could end up placing landscaping everywhere and there would not be space for builds anymore, and that would kind of defeat the purpose. But in the end, you're going to see me delete all of the buildings and just the landscaping stays, so that nobody feels like I'm dictating the shape or the look or the feel of the builds, since I want everyone to have as much creative freedom as possible. So when all of the different height levels were visible and in place, I adjusted the terrain around them to kind of like be all the same height, but that led to some like very ugly like terrain textures because of the height difference and the terrain tool. And to cover that up, I used a debug wall that's actually base game. This whole build's sadly not base game, but I just wanted to go wild. But yeah, I used the debug wall that I also used for the outer city walls to kind of like cover up those textures, and then I mixed it up with some rock formations in the areas where the shape of the walls, like that was kind of predetermined by the debug items that didn't really fit in some areas, so I changed it up with rocks. But then I really liked the look of it and how it kind of like added a little bit more variance, so I added some more of those same rock formations kind of like scattered all across the village and especially on the outer corner, so that everything just like looks cohesive and also not too samey. Oh yes, and the idea of the different districts that I was like talking about, that I kind of marked out with the floor tiles, that idea for me was for the lowest level to be a little bit closer to nature, so like the lowest district 1 we could call it, kind of reminds me of the Hunger Games, but yeah, so district 1 was at the lowest level and closer to nature. There were more rabbits and chickens running around, lots of plants, and also I added 2 lakes. And I had the idea with the lake from the beginning, but during the 2 streams that I did in which we worked on this build, we got like the idea to add crystals. And oh yeah, I'm very sorry for including some stream footage in this. I wanted to show you how some of these areas were built and decorated, but I'm also very unexperienced in splitting up like the normal recording and streaming at the same time. So the normal recording didn't work at the same time as streaming for me. I have to look into that some more. And so now you can see some of my Twitch streaming scene on the footage, but I tried my best to cut out some like emote explosions or like that typical stream stuff, but I hope you're not bothered too much by it. But yeah, so in stream we had the idea to turn this into a crystal lake, and so this little unassuming town actually got into a very fortunate and wealthy position, because it's and it's also the perfect place to live for like witches and magical people, since everywhere where there are naturally occurring ponds and lakes, there are these beautiful purple crystals glowing and they have magical properties. And so to top it all off, I added this purple glow from the Realm of Magic debug into the crystals, and I think it did an amazing job at making them look magical and making the lake look like an even more magical and beautiful place. And then a little later I also added the yellow realm of magic glow to all sorts of like lanterns that were scattered around the village that didn't actually light up at night. So now with the yellow glow in them, it kind of looked like they do, and also it looks like they're glowing during the daytime, which also kind of, I don't know, I really like the fact that this yellow glow has. Yeah, so I'm very, very happy that we have those yellow glowing Realm of Magic balls in our game, because I just love to use them and I love the effect they have. But I was originally talking about like how the ground floor district is the closest to nature, and there will also be a little farmer's market, a well and a fireplace later, which might be my favorite area in this entire build. And on the second district is what I would call like the most normal like district. We have a town square, which also has a well and maybe some sort of tavern or restaurant attached to it later if someone decides to build something like that. But yeah, there are some like chairs and stuff to kind of like symbolize a tavern, but that is like completely free game to delete later as well if someone has a different idea for that area of the build. And oh yes, in general, if anyone has questions about this project, who's working on it in the future or just in general, I am always happy to help and answer stuff, and it's the easiest to reach me through Twitter DMs. Just wanted to throw that in. And yeah, so another thing in the second district that is super cool is that there is a darker corner, and that one can't be really seen from the like front, and even when you enter the street where this like darker corner is, you can't really see it until you are standing right in front of it, and it reveals itself. So we, again, during the Twitch stream, thought we could do something a little shady or a little bit darker in that corner, and the original plan was to do something with gravestones maybe, but later when I added the market stalls in the farmers market, like one district downstairs, I was really inspired to build a market stall for some magical items of the malicious kind, you could say. And and for the market stalls in general, I want to thank the one true goddess of the T.O.O.L mod, SatiSim, who made a video on building a witch card, for which I used as heavy inspiration, or basically a tutorial for how to create market stalls. And so I'm going to link that tutorial in the description as well. Also, I just noticed that my face is really glowing. It is like really hot here in Germany currently, so I'm very sorry about this. I can't really do anything about this, but back on topic. So I loosely followed that witch card, but I did make some changes. For example, she took one of the debug fence poles, like rotated them all, and then stacked them on top of each other to create a wall for the card, basically. And I honestly did not want to go through so much work for mine, since I also knew that I would have to create many market stalls. And so I discovered this one fence that already had a wall portion that I really liked, and the wood color was lighter and more vibrant, and I really liked that. So I just used that one that we had in the game already, but I think that I still did it detailed enough, since I built the template twice, once for being on diagonals and one for like the normal directions, so that I could just like plop them down anywhere throughout the areas of the village and just decorate them to sell different things. Like two are selling baked goods, one's selling vegetables, one's selling flowers, one is for pottery. I really love the pottery one. One is for glass products, and 2 or 3 could be considered as being for like witchy wares. One of those is just like more general. It's like the first one that I've built. The second one is supposed to be more focused on potions, and the third one, which we just talked about, is the more dangerous one from District 2. And in that one, I also used the blue glowing like aura from the Realm of Magic debug. So I basically used all three: the purple ones in the crystals, the yellow ones in the lanterns, and the blue ones in the lanterns of the malicious market stall. So yeah, there's lots of neat stuff to buy in this village. And thanks again to SatiSim, since I was really struggling to try and come up with my own market stall design. And speaking of District 2, like the normal district still, there's also someone growing pumpkins, which lets see some very cute decoration opportunities. And then where there are more fancy street lights that are starting, and everything gets less cluttered and less naturey, we get into District 3, where I imagine there being like bigger houses for slightly richer people, and also a church. But of course, if there doesn't end up being a church in this village, I fully support that. Or if it ends up being a differently themed district, if it ends up being themed at all, that would be super cool to see too. So those were just the vibes that I was going for with the landscaping over here. And I started with the wishing well and the pottery cellar over here, and I absolutely love the calmness that this little area of the village has. And then on the other side of the street, there we have even more market stalls, which I feel like is the most used word in this voiceover so far. I'm very sorry. But yeah, these ones were tricky to do because I wanted them to mimic the curve of the wall behind them, which is why I can use the market stalls that I have had saved as rooms in my gallery. But at this point, I had enough experience in building market stalls that I was able to just like pretty fastly even build them even at those like very weird angles that I used to kind of like curve them along this wall. And oh yeah, and at this point, I also wanted to say something that I should be saying way more often, or that just should be said way more often, and that is the biggest thank you to Twisted Mexi for creating the tool mod and making buildings like this possible, because I can't imagine building without it anymore, and it would be like so limiting to so many creative visions. So I'll put Twisted Mexi's Patreon in the description too, just as a little insert. But yeah, and on topic of the description of this video, I'll do my very best to update it ASAP when someone releases a video about this project, so that in case you thought like your thoughts wander to this project again in a couple of months, you can just like go back to this video, open the description, and find links to part 2, 3, 4, and however many that out of at that point compiled, just all in the description. And I think that could be very useful if you want to stay up to date with this project and with this build. But back to District 3. In one corner of those like crossroads, there I wanted to have a fountain, and I found the perfect one. It was just too big, and it fit there perfectly when you sized it down by 1. There's just one problem with the fountains, and that is that the water effects basically stay at the same like height and place as they were in the original configuration. But I got super lucky because this was a fountain that had just like the middle piece like as a build item, like a separate fountain build item in the build catalog. So I was able to just take that middle piece and kind of put it in there, fitting with the water effects. And yeah, that way I got to fix it, and that was like a super nice, like a little like success moment. And then when we go the other street, the one with the curved like market stalls, when we go that street through the end, we reach a little corner which is maybe fitting for some lumber work, and which also has a beautiful work over the sea on this island of Windenburg, and I really love that area. And sorry, just like kind of wanted to highlight it for a second. And then on the layout on top of that, there is a field or an acre, I don't really know what it's called, just like the designated place for crops to grow, and I always love decorating those. And next to it there is some space for a windmill or a farm or ranch or whatever the person who chooses this space decides to build over there. And next to it is a really big lot that is fit either for like something like a courthouse or the mansion of the ruling family of this village. I'm just so curious what kind of lore the future collab partners might have in mind for this village, and yeah, that just could possibly be told through details in the interior or the exterior, and I'm so hyped and curious and excited for what's going to happen. And I want to take this as an opportunity to be sappy for a minute or two before the tour starts. And also I really recommend you watch the tour because I had 14 hours of building footage that I had to cut down for this video, and there was no way that I could be able to show you everything that I've built and placed down. So I went through it all like in great detail in the tour, which I did when the placeholder items, the placeholder houses, buildings were still in place. And I really love how the entire village felt during the tour, so don't miss it. But yeah, on a personal note, this is my 2-year anniversary of creating Sims videos on YouTube, and when I started I felt pretty alone in the things that I was passionate about, and I was studying something that made me feel terrible, honestly. And by taking together all of my courage and putting myself out there, I finally got to share and to talk about my special interest, and I got positive feedback about a skill that I've been working to improve at with building, but also about my voice and my personality. And I know that we shouldn't be dependent on external validation, but for that little insecure soul, it really felt very healing. And while lockdown was a very restrictive and lonely time for most people, I never actually felt more free to do what I want or be free at who I am, just because I started my YouTube channel during lockdown, and it has helped me to build up confidence and to speak up and to socialize more, even outside of online spaces nowadays. And so it doesn't matter if you found me 2 years ago or just now. I just want you to know that I appreciate you and any second that you take out of your day to listen to me talk about my newest Sims build that is really making me happy or inspired at the moment, or for every like sub and comment and like. It really all does put the biggest smile on my face, and I'm so thankful. And we as a community have grown so much more than I ever thought could be possible. I know that's like a super cliche thing to do at any kind of like a celebration or anniversary as a YouTuber, but yeah, I don't know, it's just so mind-blowing. At the first year we were 600 people, which already blew my mind to think about how many individuals that are, and now there are 2,800 more people in like the second year that came and found me and decided to subscribe. And even though I'm soon about to enter the big and scary like normal job world, because I know how much luck is necessary to actually make YouTube into a career, the hope and that vision of this dream job that YouTube can be, even though it's also hard work of course, but that hope is just like fueling me with so much energy and optimism for the future, which is also like so healing to experience. And I want you like to thank you all for that. just more than I can express. But yeah, that's enough of me because this build is almost finished and we're about to see the tour. So thank you again so much for watching. I hope you are just also excited for this collab, and I hope that you liked the video and the build so far, and I wish you the loveliest of days, and I hope we'll see each other again.